Watkins, Executive Director of the British Chamber of Commerce in Thailand. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on IP enforcement here in Thailand. It's presented by Rouse and supported by the UK Intellectual Property Office, or UK IPO. Today's webinar also marks the launch of a new IP enforcement manual for Thailand, produced by Rouse, for which we've already sent you the link to access online, and it will be covered a little bit more detail a little bit later by one of our speakers. If you have any questions during our presentations, we have 4 speakers. Please do type them into the Q&A button or the chat button at the foot of your Zoom screens, and we'll come to Q&A after the final presentation. So without further delay, it's my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Desmond Tan, who is UK IPO's Regional Advisor for Southeast Asia, based in Singapore. Over to you, Desmond.
Sure, thank you, Craig. So good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It's good to see all of you here today. I hope you're keeping well and also keep staying safe. So I'm Desmond, the UK Regional Advisor for IP in Southeast Asia, and I am part of the UK Intellectual Property Office's Global Attaché Network. So as Greg has mentioned, I'm based in Singapore, but the team and I would cover IP for the 10 ASEAN countries. And part of our work includes working with the regional governments on IP policy, technical assistance, but also working with UK businesses on their IP concerns or issues, such as prepping them on IP before they come to Southeast Asia, or when they're in country, what are the specific obstacles or strategies that they would like on IP. So we will support UK businesses on that. I would also have fellow attachés in the other key markets like North America, South America, India, the Gulf, and China. So for us, we are always interested to connect and to hear from businesses. So do feel free to reach out to us or the team via email, LinkedIn, or through the BridgeSham networks as well. And today, it is my pleasure to welcome you today to the launch of our Thailand Enforcement Business Guide. So this is a practical manual that summarizes Thailand's IP legislations, enforcement processes, and the touch points. And for this, we are also very pleased to have friends from the Thai IP office. So Ms. Ringrong Runyarathapun, and also from Rouse, Ms. Piraya and Ms. Supichaya, who will then cover this guide in much greater detail subsequently. So we've also developed similar business guides for the rest of the ASEAN countries like Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, and you can find them all on the respective BridgeSham websites. We have also consolidated all these guides and also the fact sheets that IPO has created on IPO's new International IP Service page. So just Google International IP Service, Gulf UK, and you can find this webpage. So you do visit this webpage often, as we'll continue to upload a lot of new content and self-help tools to this. So now without further ado, perhaps I'll hand it over to Ms. Rilgrong to cover her portion of the guides.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we start with the IP roadmap. The Royal Thai government places a high priority on combating piracy and counterfeiting with integrated collaboration of relevant agencies to suppress the sale of IPR infringing products on both physical and online market. To lay down a comprehensive policy guidance on IP protection and enforcement, the National Committee on IP Policy, chaired by the Prime Minister and consisted of 18 heads of government agency, approved a 20 years IP roadmap, which reform the country entire IP system in line with the Thailand 4.0 policy. The IP roadmap consists of 6 areas, 4 of which are under the intellectual property value chain, namely, first IP creation, second IP protection, and then IP commercialization, and also IP enforcement. The other 2 areas involve community intellectual and nation intellectual property, namely geographical indication, and the last one is genetic resources, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expression. The National Committee on IP Policy appoint a subcommittee on IPR enforcement chaired by Deputy Prime Minister, who is responsible for security and crime suppression matters, and consisted of 18 heads of enforcement agency. The subcommittee play a major role in determining measure and overseeing all enforcement operation in Thailand. To effectively eradicate IP infringement, the subcommittee on IPR enforcement has appointed 3 working groups. First is a working group on suppression of IP violation. Second, working group on suppression of IP violation over the internet. And the last one is a working group on destruction of IPR infringing goods. The 3 working group composed of all related government agencies such as police, DSI, Custom Department. This working group is chaired by Internal Security on Command. The IP is in the part of the Secretariat. Next is the IPR action plan. The ISOC Internal Security on Command is in collaboration with the IP has created the IPR action plan, which aims to strengthen various aspects of IPR enforcement, including interagency cooperation. This IPR action plan composed of IP enforcement both in physical and online market. Next is the enforcement in physical market. Despite the COVID-19 outbreak, enforcement agencies have consistently monitored in the shopping area with a history of counterfeiting and piracy. Notably, the pandemic has rendered several shopping areas and markets inoperable. In addition, market surveillance conducted by the IP, the Royal Thai Police, and the IP right holder has identified exceptionally low infringing activity or none in most areas and market during the COVID-19 period. Next is the example in the physical market. It shall be noted that the enforcement effort in the physical market also extend to the storage and warehouse. This case is occurred on February last year. The IP, the Department of Special Investigation, and the local police conduct search of 2 warehouses used for the storing and distributing counterfeiting goods in Nakhon Sawan province. More than 20,000 counterfeit goods such as handbag, wallet, glasses, watches, and scarf bearing trademark of luxury brands having the market value of over 100 million baht were seized. Next is the other case of in a physical market. In certain circumstances, the physical enforcement at the storage and warehouse is result from the investigation expand from the online infringement. This example, the Royal Thai Police, after receiving a complaint from a representative of trademark owner about sale of goods infringing the trademark on online platform, and expand the investigation and execute a search warrant at a warehouse in Nakhon Pathom province. In this case, the police could seize more than 20,000 items of garment and cosmetic with estimated damage of 2 million baht. Next is the statistics of the rate and sister during the January to December in 2021. The Royal Thai Police, the Custom Department, and the Department of Special Investigation, in cooperation with the IP and IP right holder, conduct around 1,800 raids and seized 5,124,000 infringing items last year. Next is about the enforcement against online IP infringement. Now the IP infringement activity has shifted from the physical to the online market, which are categorized as follows. Sale of IPR infringement products to online channel, namely e-commerce platform, social media platform, and also the infringing website, most of the private website. The act of committing copyright infringement on the internet by using of illicit streaming device, media box, and second, streaming on the website, application, or social media, and other form of piracy, such as uploading, downloading, and unauthorized use of digital content. The measure of enforcement against online IPR infringement are notice and take down, website blocking, criminal enforcement. As the enforcement of law may not entirely resolve the challenge of online IPR infringement, the establishment of cooperative mechanism between government agency, IPR owner, and internet platform operator to suppress online IPR enforcement are important. The DIP has supported the voluntary cooperation between the IPR owner and internet platform in fighting against online IPR infringement. Thereby, we initiate a draft of MOU on the protection of IPR on the internet, aimed to setting up a voluntary mechanism to effectively stop online IPR enforcement. The stakeholder consultation meeting were also held by the DIP to discuss the MOU in detail and provide opportunity to exchange information and view particularly on practicability aspects. The signing of the MOU, which was followed by a press conference presided by Deputy Prime Minister of the Ministry of Commerce, Mr. Julin Laksanavisik, took place on January last year at the Ministry of Commerce. At present, we have the signatory include 24 representatives of IPR owner, the major e-commerce platform, the popular platform in Thailand, Lazada, Shopee, and also JD Centon, and relevant government agency under the Ministry of Commerce, that are the Department of Intellectual Property, and the Department of Business Development, and also we have the Department of International Trade Promotion, to review and ensure effectively of the implementation of the MOU on the protection of IPR on the internet. We have the meeting with the signatory. We schedule every 3 months. Next is the scope of the cooperation under this MOU. 3 means to initiate the process. The DIP received the report by the telephone, email, or any other channel, and we initiate search before notifying to the IP owner, and then the IP owner or the law firm, the representative of the trademark owner, will explore and examine the facts and report directly to the internet platform operator with link of the sale and image of IPR infringing product. The internet platform operator will establish a channel for receiving the report and remove the IPR infringing goods from the platform. Since January last year, the DIP has already held a meeting twice in March and July. And during the meeting, the 3 signatory e-commerce platform informed that they already set up channel for the receiving report or sale of IPR infringing goods in accordance with the MOU. From March to June last year, 440 items were reported by the IP owner through that channel, the channel of the platform. Next is the example of race against online infringement. This case occurred in February last year. It's a big case because investigated by the ESI. The ESI report is raised at the premise use of operating in an illegal streaming website in Nonthaburi and Nakhon Pathom and arrested the perpetrator. The rest also result in the seizure of the equipment such as receiver, decoder, satellite dishes, computer, hard disk, and mobile phone, and the shutdown of website freewithtv.cc, which was a large pirated website in Thailand. The website had over 20,000 views per month and charge its subscribe 300 baht per month for the member. Next is the example of race against online, also infringement. Last year on October, the Royal Thai Police conduct an investigation of a number online shop after receiving complaint from the customer about the sale of fake goods and execute a search warrant at a property in Bangkok, which was used for storing such goods. The operation resulted in the arrest of the foreign national and seizure over 60,000 counterfeiting goods, including shirts and footwear. The police will pursue further investigation to explore other possible connecting infringement activity. Next is awareness and education activity in Thailand about the IP infringement. Due to the COVID-19, IP awareness and educational activity have been more carried out via online and social media channels, including Facebook and YouTube. The DIP has consistently released several infographics and video clips on the Facebook page and YouTube channel to raise IP awareness and disseminate knowledge of IP, including the video clip titled IP Progress and Development in Thailand, Protection of Thai IP in the Global Trade, and Process for Checking Trademark Status by the General Public. In addition, the IP in the cooperation with the Agency for Cultural Affairs Government of Japan and the Content OC Distribution Association has recently released the video clip and cartoon in the theme of Hello Kitty to build respect for copyright and avoid copyright piracy. Next is the campaign on the internet, the IP in cooperation with a partner, including the USPTO, MPA, J2, True Vision, the brand owner, and Reading Thai School and University Story carry out the Go for Real campaign to encourage IPR awareness among high school and university students. This campaign consists of activities include a series of virtual seminars on IP protection and the harm of IP infringement, a video clip contest, and coaching on how to produce a quality video clip that can be used as a tool to raise public awareness on this subject. The award giving ceremony for the video clip contest was held on March last year in Bangkok. Next is the ASEAN member wrote the hashtag ASEAN Respect IP to use for national awareness campaign material and relevant social media posts of among the member in the ASEAN. The DIP used this hashtag in a destruction ceremony of IPR infringing goods on JFrag and on the background of the event, and also we post some of the content about the IP infringement and with the hashtag ASEAN Respect IP also. Next is the seminar. We have always have in the seminar because in the new normal we always have the seminar there. We are the online like this we have it. Okay, next is the extraction ceremony of the IPR infringing goods. To ensure that the IPR infringement goods are removed from channel of commerce, or pirated and counterfeit goods are subject to destruction. The DIP, in the cooperation with the Internal Security Operation Command, the Royal Thai Police, Thai Custom Department, the Department of Special Investigation, and IPR owner organize a ceremony on the destruction of IPR infringing goods on a yearly basis. This year, the IPR infringing goods destruction ceremony took place. No, not this year, last year. The IPR infringing goods ceremony took place on September in the virtual format at the Office of Permanent Secretary, Minister of Commerce. The ceremony featured a live broadcast of the destruction from Saraburi and Chonburi province. The destruction ceremony was witnessed by several groups of stakeholders from both public and private sector, including USPTO and US Embassy in Bangkok, AmCham Thailand, and US ASEAN Business Council. Apart from the destruction ceremony, the Customs Department also destroy IPR infringing items on a regular basis. Thank you. These are the IP enforcement in Thailand. Thank you.
Okay, now it's our great pleasure to introduce Kun Piriya Tamasucharit, who is Deputy Country Manager and Head of Dispute Resolution at Rouse Thailand, who will introduce the IP Enforcement Manual and flag up some key takeaways. Over to you, Kun Piriya.
Thank you, Bricham, for this opportunity for us to speak to the audience today. And thank you, Desmond, for letting us help you help the UK IPO in preparing this IP rights enforcement manual for Thailand. Thank you, Kun Reung Long, for sharing your experience and information from the DIP perspective. And thank you everyone in the audience for our chance to speak to you today. My name is Piriya Tamasucharit. I'm the head of the dispute resolution team at Rouse Bangkok. A short introduction to Rouse. We started out in London over 30 years ago. We are a team of IP advisors. That means we are a mix of lawyers, trademark attorney, patent agents, patent specialists, litigators, investigators, and enforcement facilitators. Our Rouse business model was to expand into challenging regions to help our clients, mainly in the West, navigate IP system in difficult regions. Today, we have 17 offices across the world. In Asia alone, we have 4 offices in China and 1 in Hong Kong. In Southeast Asia, we have 6 offices in Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines, Indonesia, Myanmar, and Cambodia. We opened our office in Thailand in 2000, and we started doing mainly enforcement works before we expanded into prosecution, litigations, and patent drafting works. Our enforcement team have extensive experience in helping our clients now mostly from Europe, America, South Korea, Japan, and increasingly from China, enforce their IP rights in Thailand. And we are grateful for this opportunity to help prepare the manual for Thailand. Overall, Thailand have still a reputation for IP infringement, despite some improvement and number of actions taken by various parties and authorities. There are unfortunately still some counterfeit, lookalike, and pirated goods and services available offline and online in Thailand. But Thailand does have relatively well-functioning legal systems to deal with IP cases. We have specific IP law that are generally compliant with international treaties such as WTO's IP rules. However, there's still a number of practical challenges, including the problem of volume of cases and variety of infringement in the market. So our aim for this manual is to provide a summary of applicable laws and their practical application. It will also explain the legal provisions and how those legal provisions works in practice. We also provide practical commentary for businesses to help them understand the ground situation in Thailand, and also setting out guidelines on how the law works with real example. So this manual will cover 3 main areas of IP enforcement, that is criminal, civil, and administrative. Our speaker from Rouse is Kun Supichaya. She assists our clients in IP enforcement here in Thailand. And I will now hand over to Kun Muk to share our IP enforcement experience and the brief pro and con for available enforcement actions here. Over to you, Muk.
Thank you, Kun Piriya, for the brief introduction. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this session today. So just a bit more introduction about myself. My name is Supichaya. I've been working in the field of intellectual property for 5 years already. At Rouse, I'm mainly responsible for IP enforcement and brand protection matters. And as for my part in this seminar, I'm going to share with you some of our enforcement experience and cases that we have handled. And before we talk about how to enforce IP rights, I'm going to guide you on some typical infringement issues in Thailand we face according to our experience. The first issue is the counterfeit, and I assume that you know the meaning of counterfeits. In short, they are goods made to deceive consumers into believing that they are from or belong to the original brand owner. In the 2 pictures here we got from the news, we can see counterfeit bags and wallets. But however, apart from the fashion brands that we often see in the news, in our example, there are more IP owners from other various industries that they also suffer from counterfeits as well. For example, a company in automotive, cosmetics, medical device, and food industries, where counterfeit can be harmful to consumers' well-being and health. And these consumers, in most cases, from our experience, they are not aware that they are buying, for example, fake diapers for their babies. So apparently, we can see here that fake products or counterfeit can harm the consumers and can hurt the brand's integrity at the same time. And let's move on to another common IP infringement issue in Thailand, which is unauthorized use of trademark. As you can see in these pictures, they are tumblers bearing well-known trademarks and also copyright Doraemon character on the left. And another common issue for this type of infringement also include, we have also seen many well-known trademarks used with services such as restaurants, hotels without permission as well. And this type of infringement happen a lot. And we have also dealt with this issue of deceptive similarity, like in this example a lot recently. We can see that the mark on the right, the Lepin mark, can be considered as deceptively similar to the legal trademark. And in this example, we can also see that the Lepin brand also clearly infringe Lego's copyright as well, because Legos also own copyrights to its minifigures, all the illustrations and photographs used with the packaging. And I'm now going to share with you the practical approaches for IP enforcement in Thailand. Based on our experience, as Kun Piraya mentioned earlier, that in Thailand we have criminal enforcement, civil enforcement, and the administrative enforcement action. And I will begin with the administrative procedure for IP enforcement, which is the recordal of trademarks for border protection with the Thai custom. This custom recordation option is our first recommended step for many brand owners or manufacturers of consumer products to do in order to deal with counterfeits imported into Thailand from other countries, especially China. In our view, this option is considered a very cost-effective enforcement action, especially when compared to other measures such as raid action run by the police, which can cost more. And another reason why we recommend the recordal option is that in our view, in our experience, we have seen that the Thai custom is quite active. I would say that they are most active in Southeast Asia. Normally, custom detentions take place on a daily basis, mostly in the ports around Bangkok, in Klong Thoi also, leading to around 1,000 seizures per year. And the scope of border protection in Thailand is also broader than that of other countries, where only imported goods are detained. While for Thailand, the Thai custom also, they can detain exports and goods in transshipment too. And ideally, in practice, after our client's recordal is complete, we will also advise them to consider conducting a training for the custom officers and other relevant officers on how to spot counterfeits. And the custom training can also be done online too. We have seen a lot of training recently during the pandemic. Or at least we should provide them with some verification guidelines. This is to ensure that the custom officers will be more acquainted with our client's trademark, and they can spot the counterfeits right away. Sorry. Okay, next, I'll give you I'll give you a big picture of how we do IP enforcement in Thailand. Normally, in case of IP enforcement, we will begin by conducting investigation to gather evidence for further actions such as warning letters, raids, or litigation. Investigation can help us identify infringers' identity, nature, and extent of the infringing acts. For example, estimated number of infringing goods in stock and location of the storage facilities, which can be useful for further action. And after the investigation, in some circumstances that we think sending a warning letter won't be an effective option. For example, when we know that our target is a larger infringer or importer with big volume of counterfeits, we will consider running raid actions against them. And Here in this slide, we include the enforcement authorities that can help us with rate actions, including the police force, and there are for the police force, the Economic Crime Suppression Division, or the ECD, will normally handle the IP infringement cases. And the next organization is the DSI, or the Department of Special Investigation, under the Ministry of Justice. The DSI can only take on specific types of cases. For IP infringement cases, the DSI can only take cases that concern high volumes of damages of more than 10 million baht, because they revised their rules in 2018, I think. But if your case can fit into the DSI criteria, the DSI can be a good option. From our experience, the illegal contribution issue for companies, while some local police, in practice, they may ask you for some financial support. They may reason that they don't have enough budget to do rate actions. So that's why this can be a problem. And this one is a flow chart depicting the criminal IP enforcement procedure in Thailand, starting from lodging a criminal complaint to the police. To start the process, an IP owner has to file the complaint with evidence of infringement, and in practice, the police will require us to provide clear infringement evidence with, for example, exact locations of the infringers. And we will also need to provide them with assistance through the rate actions. This is why we recommend to begin with investigation first, to be prepared before we contact the police. And then when the police will arrange for rate actions, they will apply for search warrants from the court. And once the rates are done, the counterfeit seized and infringers apprehended, the police will pass on their case file to the public prosecutors, and the public prosecutors will review the case file, and if they approve of the police case file, they will prepare and lodge their criminal complaint to the court. And for criminal cases in Thailand initiated by the police, right holders will have an option to join in as co-plaintiff with the prosecutors, and they can claim civil damages. They are entitled to claim civil damages in criminal cases as well. And the case will be considered by the court based on the evidence provided by the prosecutor and the police. And let's continue with I would say the most effective approach in dealing with infringers in Thailand, according to my experience, which is to issue a warning letter or a cease and desist or a C&D letter to infringers to start negotiating with them to settle to try to settle the infringement. And in Thailand, in case of clear infringement, I would say chances of successful negotiations are very good. Our warning letters program done for many clients in the recent years achieved a relatively high rate of compliance at around 80%. I would say most infringers will usually comply by stopping the sales. And another objective of C&D letters is to educate infringers and notify them of the legal liabilities or consequences of infringement to raise their awareness. And in case of no compliance, we may consider litigation as our next action to put more pressure to the infringers. And normally, sending a C&D letter can be done prior to litigation in order to ensure that infringers have been made aware of their infringement action. So during the court proceeding, they won't have an excuse that they were not acting in bad faith. They don't know before that they sell counterfeits, because this is one of the most common excuses used before the Thai IP court. And this is our summary of challenges and advantages concerning IP enforcement in Thailand. The first challenge, as I mentioned, concerns corruptions. For me, it can be a serious issue to many multinational companies and also UK companies, as they are required to comply with the UK Bribery Act. But when they are in Thailand, in reality, the police usually expect right holders to support, to provide financial support, to continue to work to arrange for rate actions. So sometimes in Thailand, we have to be more creative, or we can go with alternative options, such as warning letters and civil litigation to avoid the bribery issues. And another challenge for us would concern the standard of proof in criminal cases, which is much higher than that of civil cases. If we pursue a criminal lawsuit without assistance from the police or public prosecutor, without the police report, without evidence collected by the police, there is a risk that our criminal complaint filed by ourselves may be rejected by the court. And we have to keep this in mind. Also, another challenges I've seen from criminal enforcement in Thailand is that we should be aware of the court's long-standing trend of decriminalization of IP cases and their conservative approach to the penalties, resulting in small fine or suspended imprisonment, which might not sufficiently discourage the infringers. And next, we will look at the positive side for Thailand. As I mentioned earlier, that in Thailand, good news that a warning letter can be an effective option. We can resolve infringement issue here quickly through C&D letters and negotiations. And we also have quite a reliable specialized IP court with judges with good understanding of intellectual property law. They handle around 300 of civil trial per year. But while the civil litigation can take may take around 1.5 years for the court to announce its decision. But during the proceeding, we will still have many opportunities to settle our case through mediation sessions at the court. So our case we may be able to settle before that 1.5 years. And for civil IP cases, I would like to add that the IP court is becoming increasingly open to awarding larger amount of damages. I think this can have more deterrent effect on infringers than just small fine and suspended imprisonment in criminal case alone. However, as we know, the civil litigation option can be costly. And that's that is all for me, for my slide, and bringing us to the end of this presentation. And I can see our time is just about up. So so to finish, I would like to say thank you so much for your interest and attention today.
Thank you, Kun Supichaya, Kun Wrong, and Kun Piriya. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions for our speakers? And we have 10 minutes or so left in our time for Q&A. I guess to kick things off, a question from me for IP owners. Is there significant advantage in registering that IP ownership specifically in Thailand? I understand Thailand recognizes various international IP conventions, but is there advantage in registering that IP in Thailand? And is it a straightforward process? Is it something Rouse can facilitate? Who would like to take that?
I would take on that question. So definitely in Thailand, there's many types of IP rights to address here. If we talk about trademark, definitely, because Thailand is the first to file, we use the first to file system. It means that if you have trademark registration here in Thailand, it makes enforcement much easier. Does that mean that unregistered trademark is not enforceable? The answer is no. We do have protection for unregistered mark, but the process is much more difficult, and you do have the burden to prove your reputation, and you have to prove likelihood of confusion. So it's a bit more work on your side if you don't have the trademark registration. So the easiest route to enforce for trademark is make sure you have registration first here in Thailand. Does it take long? It can be shorter times for registration, but the process is getting better. There might be some challenge just when it comes to some suggestive mark, but for the convention trademark, you should be fine to obtain registration here in Thailand. But if you do have a more non-conventional, like suggestive, you will probably need IP advice from IP lawyers.
Okay, thanks, Kampiria. We have a follow-up question. If we do need to register IP, then do we need to do it in Thai language? I guess the answer to that is yes.
Yes, for trademark, yes. But again, if you It depends. If your main trademark is in English, even if someone uses the same trademark but in the Thai legislation, then that Thai version is still considered probably confusingly similar because the sound would be the same. So you do have some protection, but if your product in Thailand will definitely hold that version of trademark in the local language because that's how you intend to market your products, then I think it would be worthwhile to also have that particular trademark in local language. It's not a requirement, but it's a nice to have feature.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, any further questions?
Greg, maybe I'll just add on to what Kun
Sure.
Traya has added on as well. So I think ultimately, depending on where do you want to file, be through a national system or through the international treaties, it really depends on what is your business strategy. You have to think about what are your key markets. Is it just Thailand alone, or in Southeast Asia, do you have quite a few markets in place that perhaps maybe you're looking into Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore? So if you have these strategies in place, then it will affect your filing strategy. So Kun Perry has shared very clearly in detail about trademarks, but perhaps your products also have patents involved. So that's why in Southeast Asia, they also have an ASEAN patent examination cooperation system called ASPEC, where you can think of it as a mini version of the patent cooperation treaty, where you can file a single application in Southeast Asia, but you'll be expedited throughout the region as well. So there are many strategies in place. And I guess the most important thing is for businesses to first understand your product, your target markets, and then to speak with the patent attorneys or IP attorneys. And of course, speak to us too. So we'll be happy to share as well. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Desmond. We have a follow-up question from Harsh. If we've registered IP under PCT agreement, then what protection is offered in Thailand, and in what period do we need to file the IP in Thailand? Our product is not trademark, but technology, and thus intellectual property protected.
Maybe
When we're wrong, you're going to answer this one.
I will send you the email and find the answer. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And if you can send to me, we'll contact Harsh.
Yes.
Okay. I think this will need to be our last question. I think, let me just. Wow. Okay. The $1 million or $1 million question. How do you calculate civil damages in IP litigation? Any experiences?
I'll go for it. In Thailand, mostly you are granted actual damages in most of the cases, but in for copyright and for patent, I think the court will also look at the severity of the cases, and they will give you also the cost of enforcing your rights in Thailand. So normally, if we talk about actual damages, you have to prove that your sale dropped or your sale is stolen by the counterfeit, your profit drops, or sometimes the court will give you, say, the typical percentage is like 10% of the money that the counterfeiters make, as in a license. That's a license percentage that the court think is fair in many of the cases that we have seen. That's the actual damages. But if you're enforcing your copyright or patent, you can also add your cost of enforcing that rights, and the court will take that into consideration, and you can be granted award on that cost as well.
Okay, thanks, Kumpiya. We do have one final question from BCCT Board Director and from Diageo Chemical. Would you like to ask your question?
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Greg. ขอบพระคุณค่ะ สวัสดีตอนกลางวันค่ะท่านทุกท่านนะคะ Right. Actually, it's not a question. Just like to share with you. My name is Khemika, Board of Director, and also the Secretary of the Thai Alcoholic Beverage Association of Thailand. Alcohol in the beverage kind of business and industry that experience illicit alcohol issue for decades, right? It's both counterfeit and struggling good. And of course, there's civil litigation, that gonna be is like the speaker says costly, and we would like to drive the case to final criminals to success and use all the relevant law, not just the IP law, but also the money laundering law or liability or something like that. Because what happened right now, the counterfeiter, who been alleged, is come for some reason they always come back and repeat that crime again and again for like a decade. And also the counterfeit alcohol is a food product, is cause harmful to the consumer, right? And this is kind of that we need attention from the government. However, thank you DIP, from the past decade. You are highly help the the industry, I mean alcohol industry and other consumer goods a lot in terms of improving the situation. Yeah, and what we like do to kindly have a look is online. Yeah, you have some memorandum, but it's not cover the emerging, not I should call emerging, the important channel that is chat application like Line and Messenger or Instagram or Facebook. That is a very important trade channel of the all the illicit alcohol and other consumer goods. If you can in the future have them sign off in the memorandum as well, yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kemika. I think we're pretty much there. I'd like to draw this webinar to a close, and thanking our speakers once again for engaging with our members today. To thank you to Desmond for supporting this event. It is much appreciated. I'm delighted to say that we hope to be working with Desmond, and I'm sure we will be working with Rouse again later this year, and the DIP on a face-to-face event once the COVID situation stabilizes a little bit, and we can get Desmond into the country easily, and we can get him back home to Singapore easily, hopefully in the next 6 months. So ladies and gentlemen, if you do have comments, if you do have perhaps aspects of IP that you would like more detail on, or you would like covered in more detail, we can then work those aspects into the face-to-face event later this year. But in the meantime, thank you again to our speakers. Thank you again to our attendees for joining us. There will be a link available, or I think I've circulated a link for the IP manual. I think we'd both the Chamber and Rouse would welcome feedback on that from users, because I sense this won't be the only version of the manual. These things are updated as law and practice changes. So final thanks again, everybody, and stay safe.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.